Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Good Guys Sports, joined by myself, Blake Gerke, our usual members of Jackson Gerke, Mike Roby, and Blake Lineberger. And we've got a very exciting show for everyone this weekend, continuing on the theme of playoff football. The games are coming thick and fast. We had the wild card round in the NFL last weekend that we will recap, and then we have to preview the divisional round as well coming up this weekend in addition to a big preview of the college football playoff championship game coming up this Monday. So lots of games to look forward to, but I think we're going to start with the NFL. And we have to say that there were some exciting games last weekend and some games that possibly ended up not being as competitive as we had previously thought. And so I think, a lot of these matchups that we have this week, I think, is we're really getting down to the elite level teams in the NFL with elite level quarterbacks. So I want to firstly start with bringing in Mike's Commanders to this discussion because they've got a difficult matchup on Saturday night in Detroit. But first, I don't want to jump to that. I wanted to get your reaction and how excited you were with the end of that game and down in Tampa last weekend, and just how the Commanders' frenzy is really just hitting an all-time high now.
The doink hit heard around the world.
Indeed.
Oh yeah.
But the key, the Commanders kept the ball for the last 4.5 minutes of the game. They did not let the Bucks back on the field. And I think that was a big key. Um, I mean they held the ball. The Commanders had no punts in that game. I mean, talk about Dan Quinn gambling. He was a gambler. He went on a few fourth downs, threw a touchdown on one, and didn't make two of them. But he was a gambler, and that was an exciting game. I think that was a wake up call for the rest of the NFL with way Jaden Daniels played. I mean, he played his heart out, and ice, ice in his veins. Wouldn't rattle at all.
Mike, what did you say about the Zane train? About being on the Zane train?
Um,
So the kicker's the Zane, right? Is that right? Am I getting that right, or somebody else's kicker Zane?
Now that's some of my other kickers, I think. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
sorry. All
yeah.
right.
No worries,
Uh,
no worries.
well, I'll
But
tell you what, Mike. There's a song. I think it's called "The Gambler," and you got to know when to hold them, and you got to know when to fold them,
yeah,
and you got to know
yeah,
when to walk away. And
absolutely.
I'm gonna tell you why. I was so mad at him. I mean, he left what? You left 6 points on the board
Mm-hmm.
in field goal range, correct? Going down,
Yeah.
and then got a touchdown to cancel out the six you on the board. So nine. Okay, so we left nine on the board, or three.
Uh-huh.
We left three on the board if he would have hit all three field goals. Am I doing
Yeah.
that math right?
Yeah, I think
Gosh.
you are. I mean, it wouldn't have been as close, but I think, the other key was um Mansfield fumbling the exchange and the Commanders recovering the ball.
Oh my God.
Turnovers, baby.
Mm. No, that's gonna hurt him. That's gonna hurt him.
And Commanders didn't turn the ball over at all.
Wow. Mm.
Zero punts, zero turnovers. And they did that three times this season.
Well, that's a good stat because all the quarterbacks that have come into the playoffs that were leading the NFL in the least amount of interceptions, all threw more interceptions in the playoff game than they
Uh-huh.
had in 16 games.
Yeah.
So that's honestly a really good statistic
Yeah.
that y'all had.
And the Commanders won 6 games this year on the last play of the game.
Mm. You know what they say,
So,
Mike? Pressure cooks diamonds.
yeah, baby. Here we go.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Man, Jaden Daniels, talk about like a comeback kid who knows how to win in the fourth quarter. and overtime, who's done it in this early of his rookie career of a level. It's crazy to me. I mean, talk about a quarterback who just knows how to win in the pro level at a younger age. That's just really just unheard of. It never happens. It never happened before, especially when you play in this level um in of football. And yeah, I mean good for him. He just
Yeah.
deserved it. And
You know what else,
yeah, I got
Jackson?
yeah.
You know what else? And Mike, I don't know if you heard this as well, but I was shocked at the amount of volume when the Redskins or the Commanders were on defense in the Tampa Stadium. So your fans traveled well. I don't know how
Yeah.
many were there, but I was shocked to hear volume when you guys were on defense in third down, and it was
Yeah.
loud. So
Well,
there were a lot
it
of
was,
Washington fans there.
it's been really cold up here. So, people want to go out and they, they want to be
It's
like
easy
Blake, go
sell.
down in the warm
Hey,
weather.
easy sell. Yeah, that was cool to hear the crowd get loud for Washington down there.
Yeah. Hey, they're talking about uh, demolishing the old RFK Stadium soon.
Really?
Now that that's passed into law.
Oh, wait a
Uh,
second. Is it where were they playing? Oh, that's right. They already have FedEx is somewhere else right now.
yeah. Well,
West.
it's now Northwest Stadium.
That's right. Okay.
We got rid of the fed up field. I used to say, well, a few years
That's a per.
ago,
I mean, listen.
we were one ownership away from a championship. We're
You're
there now,
right too.
baby. We're
You're
now
right.
there.
Is it the owner or the GM that's doing magic, or both?
Both.
Okay. And the GM was the guy that helped build what? What team was he at before this? Or the owner? Which one
Oh,
was it that
the
built it?
GM, I think when he with the 49ers?
Yeah, something. And yeah, I'd heard it. And possibly even a different sport he had helped build.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't
Well,
remember.
Magic Johnson is a minority owner.
No way.
Yeah.
Do you live in the
Yeah.
DC?
No, I don't think so. But
Okay.
he's a part owner of the Dodgers and a couple other sports teams. So
Okay.
hey, it's exciting to be in the District of Champions right now.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
We're just playing with house money at this point.
That's what makes you guys so scary. You
Yeah.
got you got zero pressure to win.
Yeah. We are the only visiting team to win last weekend.
Wow. Who do you guys have this week?
The Lions,
Oh boy.
Saturday
Yeah,
night, eight
yeah,
o'clock.
tall task at hand for you guys. You gotta go up against Jared Goff and Jamar Gibbs and Amar St. Brown. It's going to be it's going to be so hard and very difficult to contain them or slow them down for this Dan versus Dan squaring off each other with the two Dans going at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really going to be very difficult. I'm looking at the odds makers, and it's currently a 73.0% chance of the for the Lions for my matchup predictor. So it's
So you're
definitely
saying
not
there's a
going to,
chance.
Mm.
well, I'm saying there's a chance, but it's not going to be easy as you think. I think the Lions will win this game, but I think the Commanders will find a way and have a chance to maybe score later or get into overtime or possibly maybe have a chance to win this game. I mean, there is hope for those fans up up in DC for those fans, but I'm just taking the Lions for this one at this point. But I'm not giving up for your hope on your Commanders just yet, Uncle Mike, because I know you still want to be playing still want to be still want to keep this season going strong and playing at it, even though you guys finally got your first playoff win since 2005. Hard to believe that's 20 years later in the making. Like that's
Yeah.
crazy. I I I can't even believe that's really becoming a trend, which it is. Well, it's now 2025, and boy, hasn't time flown by so fast.
Yeah. So I would not be upset if the Lions were to win because, you know, who wouldn't want the Lions to finally make it into the Super Bowl? But
And plus, yeah, and plus,
the
there's a
the
top seed.
Commanders will win.
Right,
They
right.
will surprise them.
You never know. I mean, anything can happen in this game, but
Anything can happen.
anything can
The
happen
the
with the playoffs.
Lions defense likes to play man to man.
Well, that's
And
a
with
great.
the man to man defense, and they're going to have to have a one or at least two spies on Daniels. That leaves Scary Terry man on man and Brown man to man. I like those odds because
So I will say, so yeah,
Daniels can read a defense.
right, right. So I will say this. So the only way I see the Commanders winning that game is that they stay healthy and not take too many turnovers, or really got to have a score in the fourth down if Dan Quinn goes for it like Dan Campbell does. So really, if the Commanders have a chance to win the game, then absolutely don't take any turnovers and just try to
No.
run or pass the football as much as you can. Just try to be more aggressive, and then I like the Commanders' chances. But besides that, I still have the Lions winning.
Yeah. Well, the best way to defend against the Detroit's offense is to keep them off the field. And if the Commanders' offense, Jaden Daniels, can keep the Lions off the field, it's hard to win when you don't have the ball. And I think the Commanders' strength is their offense, and that's what they did against the Bucks. They kept the Bucks off the field long enough to win the game. And I think they're going to do the same thing. So
Yeah, I mean, that would go back to your point about how great the Commanders are on third and fourth down, right? And if you keep converting these third and fourth down scenarios, obviously you're keeping your offense on the field. Like you said, you're chewing clock, you're quieting the crowd. So I could certainly see a scenario where Washington's able to move the ball and really kill the clock in Detroit and kind of take the crowd out of the game initially anyway. I'm hesitant I'm torn because I know Jack's going with the money, and he's taking the Lions obviously, and most people will. Obviously Mike's back in his Commanders, and he's got plenty of reason too, given the performances that we've seen from them. I can see the game plan that Mike's laying out where, you get some third and short, some fourth and short conversions, maybe get a touchdown or two early and kind of, put the ball in Detroit's court to go out there and compete, and score with Washington. But I just think Detroit has too much talent, and possibly the defensive injuries might end up catching up with them at some point in the playoffs. I don't know if it's going to be this week though. So I'm leaning Lions. I'm leaning Lions. Sorry, Mike.
that's all right.
What do you, Blake? What's your prediction here?
Oh man, I mean, it's hard. It's super hard not to go against the Lions, but I'm gonna tell you what. If you guys remember, the upset of the year, self awarded, of course, was the Redskins or the Commanders against the Eagles call. I awarded that to myself. Obviously, that was the upset good guy sports call of the year. I'm gonna up the ante even more. Washington Commanders upset the Detroit Lions, Jackson, and this is why. Detroit knows how to do one thing: lose the big game. Washington Commanders go up to Detroit. They keep it close. And what Washington is good at is if it's a close game, teams get nervous because like Mike said, Washington has won so many games when it's close. They know how to work under pressure. Detroit's been ahead a lot of these games. I'm not sure if they know how to work under pressure. The Commanders beat the Lions. Jackson, what do you think about that? Call me crazy.
Like, you're not wrong. I mean, all
Well, you're picking the
stars.
Lions.
I know, but think about it. Like, well,
Somebody has to be
for the
wrong.
Lions, but yeah, still the Lions win. Blake, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah. Look, don't feel sorry about me, Blake, about your upset pick. But but you make a great point that
Thank
since
you.
they've done this run, since it all first started with that Hail Mary game winning touchdown score against the Bears, that is when you realize the fans and the Commanders are back to this winning culture, back to
This team is different.
life. Well, right, but you make a great point, Blake, because
Thank you.
yeah, of course, and I know that this fan base, for what those fans have have been going through since that win against the Bears earlier this season, that is when you realize that they are like you said, Blake, are on this magical playoff carpet ride run, and that's
Yeah.
what for those tricky Commanders are really buying in for that fan base, and you're right, Blake, they have something to live for because and think about it, they have had a think about it. They had, like Mike said, they had a change ownership, meaning a clean house and a new coach, and really just and really buying into all the fans, bringing it back to life for those fans up in DC, like the glory days, like they won the Super Bowl, the year that my parents got married, back in those early
Ooh,
days.
okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, something tells me that if you remember, Mike, and I'm sorry, Blake, that the Lions and the Commanders were in the playoffs. We since I'm getting me vibes and really flashbacks. I feel like they were going back to the 1990s where those teams were actually in the playoffs. So
Yeah, for sure.
I'm
Yeah,
just
it's
looking
been a
forward
long
to that future.
time.
And I think I think the NFL is heading leading towards that way.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, honestly. And I think the part of the reason this has been a good playoffs is that we've got teams, a couple of teams that haven't really been there that are looking to get it over the line, with Detroit, Washington, and even Buffalo, who we'll get onto at a later point. So yeah, certainly a good point. And I think we mentioned it before. Either of these teams will be looking to kind of bring the momentum back to their franchise after a long dormant period. So for sure, yeah, there's really no either winner here will be uh will result in a really excited fan base for sure. So okay, so we're split on the Lions and Commanders. So interesting. Yeah, we'll see if I think we'll know early if that one's going to end up being a close competitive game, and it wouldn't shock me. So definitely one to keep an eye on for Saturday night. And so the other game, NFL playoff game on Saturday before the Lions Commanders game that we just spoke about, is the Houston Texans traveling to your defending Super Bowl champions, Kansas City Chiefs, who will be starting their quest for a three-peat, Jackson, this weekend at home against the Texans. I think a lot of people were surprised at how well Houston played against the Chargers in the previous weekend. Maybe you could argue the Chargers kind of ended up giving that game away more so than Houston winning it, but they got some really good turnovers and the defense played well. Houston there. So Jack, I want to start with you. I mean, Kansas City's favored by about a touchdown. Is there any scenario where Houston is able to make this game competitive and possibly win it, or are we just going Chiefs all the way here?
Yeah, I've got Chiefs all the way. They are going to be tough to beat if they all stay healthy with Patrick Mahomes and Kareem Hunt and Travis Kelce and those guys. They're going to be hard to beat, and I think that all the entire panel can all agree with me with this. The Chiefs are, like Blake said, are going to be on history on quest to do something that the NFL has never seen before, and Patrick Mahomes said in one of the shows that it's going to be coming, and they are going to bring back the Lombardi Trophy back to where it all first started out for those fans out in Kansas City for the Kareem Hunt Trophy and the Hunt brothers ownership out there in Kansas City. They are going to bring they are going to bring another title back to Kansas City for those fans out in Arrowhead, and those fans, whether you like it or not, the Chiefs will bring back a Super Bowl champion, the Kansas City, and one of the most craziest and best tailgating atmospheres out in the NFL. They will be in they will
Jackson,
be
don't tell the
will
Bills
be
fan
remembered and
that.
they will be a part of it. And Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs will will do the unpredictable and bring the title back to Kansas City for those fans. And Patrick Mahomes will be the new GOAT and will surpass Tom Brady for the most for one of the most Super Bowl titles on that list.
I'm getting a little ahead of yourself. We're not even in February yet.
And along the field.
So let's worry about
So
Houston first, right? Yeah.
it's tough to beat. And now, prove me that I'm wrong, but the Kansas City Chiefs are still the team to beat.
Okay, interesting, interesting. So Jackson's heavy on Kansas City. Mike, do you land anywhere different here?
Um, no, I don't. I mean, you figure that Kansas City starters have rested for the last 2 weeks. The game against the Broncos, they all rested. So they're whatever bumps and bruises they have, they're healed. The only downside would be if some of them are a little bit rusty. Uh, but I don't necessarily see that. Um, Texans looked awesome against the Chargers. I think Stroud needs to find um, another another target to hit. Uh, it might be their tight end. Schultz might be the surprise of the game. Stroud to Schultz multiple times during the game. But I got the Chiefs in this one.
Blake, any disagreement there?
No, it's not even going to be close. Chiefs win by 2 touchdowns plus.
Yeah, I think we're all aligned on the Chiefs there. I think Houston may be flattered to deceive a little bit in the regular season, and they obviously put up a good performance against the Chargers last weekend. But I think I'll touch upon this in the NFC once we get to those, or the Sunday games once we get to those. But you always have to be a little bit careful of going too heavy on the team that played well in the previous round, just because the Texans in a good performance against the Chargers doesn't mean they're going to go into Kansas City and shock anybody, at least in my opinion. So yeah, I know. I think we're all on Kansas City, and so we think Kansas City will be moving on to face the winner of the other game that we will touch upon in a second. But I want to jump, Jackson, to the jersey that you are wearing on your very person, which belongs to Mike's mortal enemy, the Philadelphia Eagles, who are taking on the LA Rams Sunday afternoon. So the Eagles ended up I mean, you could say it was a comprehensive victory against the Packers, and they ended up kind of grinding it out towards the end of it. The Eagles, the Packers made a couple of mistakes, couple of turnovers here and there. Um, I think the Eagles have really relied on kind of grinding out games with the run and defense and things like that. So they put together a good performance, and maybe not great against the Packers, but it was good enough to see themselves through. And then the Rams, of course, ended up making quick work of the Vikings. It has to be said on Monday night, the previous weekend, possibly the surprise of the wild card weekend, given the Vikings came in with big expectations given their record, but of course losing that last regular season game in Detroit ultimately put them in the wild card weekend against the Rams, and lo and behold, they ended up losing in that game against the Rams, who, to be fair, they're a dangerous team, of course, but still, a lot of people would have been surprised by that result, certainly. So the Rams are traveling cross country to Philadelphia on Sunday. Eagles are pretty comprehensive favorites, about a touchdown. I'm seeing a 6.5 point favorite for the Eagles. Yep, that's the jersey, all right. And so this is an interesting matchup. This is an interesting matchup. I'm I'll just give away my pick now. I'm pretty confident in the Eagles just because, like I was saying earlier, just because the Rams were able to kind of bully the Vikings. doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be able to go into Philadelphia and do the same thing. I think the Eagles, while they might not be like the flashy firepower team, they're a really complete team on the offensive and defensive front, and they're able to get turnovers. They're able to really disrupt what the other team wants to do. And of course, Saquon Barkley is having a incredible season, and he'll certainly look to run on that Rams defense. Who give them credit, they were able to get to the quarterback, that being Sam Darnold last weekend. We'll see if they're able to do that now. Jalen Hurts might have to use his legs a bit more than he's used to, given the way the Rams were able to rush the quarterback last weekend. But I'm personally going Eagles here. I just think they're a very complete team, and the Rams probably this is about where their ceiling maxes out given their expectations. Jackson, what are you thinking about this game? Obviously, the jersey you're wearing might give away your pick, but
Let me first and foremost say that the Rams Vikings game took place in Glendale, Arizona, after as we all touched on, that the game was moved because of the wildfires that hope that Good Guy Sports makes to donation to those people who are affected, for those who are in need, which I hope that all of you encouraged to do. Now, as for this matchup in this game, the Rams did get a win against the Vikings last week, but they are going to have a tall task and just going to have to deal with a lot and stay healthy, because you can't turn over the ball and make too many mistakes against this Eagles team, because if you do, the Eagles will win and dominate the game. Puka Nacua, Matthew Stafford, and Karen Williams have got to play their best game. Since they are dealing with those wildfires, family play there, they would think that they would get the win for those people out in LA who are still recovering and are still fires the wildfires still take place there going on, and hope that they get the win for those people who were affected. But at the same time, they realize that they're still playing in a they still have a football game to play, that you got to deal with. You got to try to quiet the crowd, which is not easy to do at the lake at the link in South Philly. You got to deal with Saquon Barkley and AJ Brown and those guys. Like you said, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and AJ Brown and Saquon Barkley. Those guys are just really hard to defend and beat, and contain and slow down at this point, because really the Packers just you watched the Packers game last week, and really in their game last week, if you watch the Eagles in their game against the Packers, it was the Packers just were only the Packers just like cut the lead, and they were still in this game until they weren't. Thanks in thanks in large part, the Packers had the lead in the fourth quarter at one point, although they didn't. Thanks in large part to Josh Jacobs, who really was the only Packers player that was really dominant in their game last week. Although the Packers didn't really do much besides that, because really they did all they could. But the Packers, look at them last week; they are winless against teams that are above 500 in the playoffs, against with teams that for non-losing seasons. But that's a whole other conversation. But going back to the Eagles Rams game, yeah, there were a lot of storylines, but I've got to, but I got to lean towards the Philadelphia for my dad's and my team that we all grew up with, the Philadelphia Eagles, in this one, because they are going to be the team to be at home. They're in South Philly. Rocky music is going to be playing. It's going to be blaring, and the crowd's going to be into it. The fans are going to be cheering them on. They are going to enjoy this, and they're more than boost Santa Claus, of course. But the Eagles fans are going to be living for this. They're used to it, and they always will be. And I say the Eagles win. And also, did you guys see that AJ Brown was reading a book on the sidelines? To me, it looked like he got a book from, like, I don't know. It looked like he got a book from a Barnes and Noble store, maybe, or some like local library in Philadelphia, maybe I'm guessing. So of how he found this book, which I'm really curious and interesting to see how he found that book because I find that very fascinating and interesting to see how it excuse me to really see how this how he found that because I'm really interested to see how he found that and where he got it because I really want to read that and hope that all you do, like my dad does, which I know he cares. I'm sure I'm sure you guys do as well.
Yeah, interesting. You don't see players whipping out books at on the sidelines very often. So we'll see if he does the same thing. It might end up being a good luck charm for the Eagles. Might carry him all the way. Who knows? Who knows? Mike, what are you feeling about this game?
So the Eagle fans need to be rooting for my Commanders so they can have a home game. Because if the Lions win and the Eagles win, Eagles go on the road. If
Right.
the Eagles want to play at home again, they need to be rooting for my Commanders. Now, that said, Rams are going to be tough. They had 9 sacks last weekend. So they're going to be tough, but I don't think they're going to be able to stop the Eagles. Barkley is just too good at rushing. He averaged over 4.5 yards a carry last weekend against the Packers, and I think Eagles lead the NFL in time of possession, and that
That's
would make
crazy.
sense. That would make sense with Barkley in your background.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's trying to chase that single season record. And Blake Eric Campbell for the all time great. He's trying to be on that list, Mike, so that all the Eagles fans out there in the league can really with this history, which they really are used to this.
yeah. So I'm looking forward ahead to the Commanders upsetting the Eagles again next weekend, but I've got ahead of myself.
Wow, how about that? Imagine that
So that's all.
Washington Philadelphia NFC title game. That would be insane, wouldn't it? Lots of work to do before then, though. So we'll
Yeah,
see.
yeah.
We'll
I
see.
wouldn't get ahead of myself, Mike.
Blake, what do you think about this game? You think Philly's too good for the Rams? So you might have lost Blake there, but yeah, no, I think sounds like we're all fairly strong on the Eagles. So we shall see.
The only
Obviously,
thing that would derail the Eagles would be turnovers.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, they gotta play a clean game for sure. And like I mentioned earlier, the Rams did a really good job of getting to Sam Darnold the previous week. So
Hmm.
I think if the Eagles are able to protect Jalen Hurts, give him time to go through his progressions, then that's really gonna make a big difference in this game as well. If Hurts is able to be a bit more mobile and make some plays outside of the pocket as well, that's gonna be huge for the Eagles as well.
Hmm.
So keep an eye on that for sure.
Blake, you're still with us? I feel like we lost you for a second.
We might have lost Blake Lineberger, but that's okay. That's okay. We can jump to the final game on our Sunday slate in the NFL playoffs, and that would be what I think is the game of the season, the game of the playoffs up to this point for sure, which is the Baltimore Ravens traveling to Buffalo, New York to take on the Bills. Now we've got the two MVP frontrunners head to head, Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen. This is going to be a really hyped matchup, one certainly to that a lot of people are going to be looking forward to. A lot of people are probably looking forward to this matchup long before the playoffs even started, just to see these two teams going head to head in the AFC. Obviously, the previous weekend, we saw the Ravens making pretty light work of their division rivals, Steelers, who they probably have some question marks to answer for themselves this season. But alas, the Ravens were able to brush them aside. And then similarly for Buffalo, the Broncos maybe throw a couple of haymakers early on, but the Bills kind of answered that. And I think they scored like 30 unanswered points or something like that against the Broncos last weekend. So they certainly answered all the critics there. This is a really interesting matchup. So I think the difference here, I think, is going to be that combo of Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, and whether or not the Bills are going to be able to do anything to maybe not even stop it, but slow it down, right? And we've seen the Bills defense is probably, the weakest sort of unit in this game, you would say. They've given up points, at least in the regular season anyway, at a pretty high clip. So the Ravens, and also another factor to keep in mind here is the availability of Zay Flowers as well, because he was out in the previous rounds game. So I don't know what the update currently is on him. I think he might have been practicing at some point this week. So certainly keep an eye on him. Another weapon for Lamar Jackson. But listen, I mean, Lamar Jackson has been pretty much impossible to stop most of this season. He's really, if he's not scrambling in the pocket and making time for himself and finding that receiver, he's just taking the ball and running. And it really seems like he's, a really tough matchup for any team. And then let alone you've got Derrick Henry ramming the ball down your throat as well in that offense. So the Baltimore really seems like they're able to move the ball well. That being said, they have to go to Buffalo in the cold conditions, a tough atmosphere. And Josh Allen's been having a heck of the year, a heck of a season. He's probably the front runner for the MVP, right? So he's certainly got something to say here. Baltimore is favored by 1 point in Buffalo, which is interesting, I think.
This
So
is like the closest margin, closest margin predictor we have ever seen out of all the four playoff games. That's
indeed,
crazy.
indeed. So like the money is really split here, and honestly, I'm not too sure where to go here, but I'm going to lay my hat on the Ravens here just because, like I mentioned, with Lamar and Derrick Henry, I just feel like that 1-2 punch is better than Buffalo's 1-2 punch. And I know Cook is having a great year for them as well. And, Buffalo's having a heck of a season as well. So I'm certainly not picking it with a great amount of confidence, but I just, from what I've seen so far this season, seems like that Lamar is going to be harder to stop than Josh Allen will be. But I mean, like we said, it's a 1 point spread here, so could go either way. But I'm leaning Baltimore. Jackson, what do you have to say about this one?
Well, for me, you go back to this last meeting those teams played against, which was back in September. It resulted in a Baltimore blowout win at M&T Bank Stadium. Since those two meetings last met each other back in sometime in September. So this time around, I expect a very close game. I think the Bills will win this game by a field goal. It will be I'm going to say it's going to be a 20 to let's see, it's going to be a 20 to 17 Bills um Bills get the win at Hard Rock Stadium. But I could be wrong. The panel could be wrong, but that's who I'm taking. I and the Bills will win this one, but I wouldn't count on Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. And you mentioned Safe Flowers. The Ravens did find a way to win without him, which is a bit surprising to me. But given the fact that the Steelers were hanging with the Ravens for some portion of the game, they but they but they couldn't keep sending plays and really score more points in the red zone and make more big plays. But really the Steelers just couldn't really get too much, add more points on and get more plays in because the Ravens were just like really just the Ravens defense just like really outduel them and just really just shut them down for the most part in the game. But that's really why the Ravens moved on to the next round because they were at home. The Steelers just weren't really that healthy in their in their game last week. So for me, I've got the
Jackson,
Bills winning the game.
you got who winning the game?
The Bills win the
Oh
game.
yeah, baby, Jackson. I knew you were a smart guy, man. You're dang right. The Bills Mafia breaking tables. Josh Allen is going to do anything to win it all. Sorry, Lamar, you had a great year, but you can't. You know what they say in DC, Jackson, the District of Champions? You cannot teach hard. You can teach skill, you can teach all that, but you can't teach hard. Lamar's got it, but I will tell you who's got it even more than that is Josh Allen. Bills win. Jackson, by the way, where are you? I don't recognize this stadium.
Oh, I'm glad you asked. Well, I was supposed to. I was supposed to be at the national championship game with you for our VY Sports show on the road, which is not going to happen this time, but wasn't going to be as scheduled and not going to happen. Didn't make it unfortunately, but that I'm glad you asked. That's the background of the national championship game. I tried to find the background of the Mercedes-Benz Stadium for the side national championship game. I couldn't find it. That's what I stick with, and
Okay.
that's what I
Is that a Spanish? You might be in a Spanish stadium somewhere. Okay, the jumbotron was throwing me off.
yeah. Yeah, so the Ravens Bills is must see TV, and that's really how I
Oh,
see
you
it.
got that right.
So
Yeah,
Blake, you're on the so Blake's on the Bills as well. Then it sounds like, right?
Yeah.
yeah, Blake, I'm sorry you missed our last segment because you just cut off and just we couldn't we lost connection for you. But do you have the Eagles win the game?
And who are the Eagles playing again? Tell me again.
Rams.
Rams.
Oh, yeah, Jackson. Come on, man. Are you kidding me? Listen, Jalen, not Hurts, not concussion, will win for the Eagles. Absolutely. Not Hurts any longer. Jalen not Hurts any longer.
All right.
So I have 2 words for the Ravens Bills game. Just 2 words. Derrick Henry.
Mm, strong 2 words.
Week
That's
4.
good, Mike. That's good.
Week 4. Henry carried the ball for 199 yards. And the other thing is, this was a hard pick because, I mean, Bills playing at home, the weather, it's going to like hitting concrete. Ravens would be better not to play Flowers. With his bad knee, that's all he needs to do is hit that concrete once with that bad knee, and he's going to be done. But the other factor is the Ravens, they put their jumbo offense in there, and they can field 7 300-pounders and have Derrick Henry running with behind that line. That's going to be tough. So I think that's going to be the name of the game.
It's too late. Is it too late to change my answer after Mike? Man, he's the best to do it around here. Outside of Jackson, goodness. Too late to change my ansor, Jackson.
I think currently we're split. Me and Mike are on the
Don't
Ravens,
think
but
we're allowed
sounds
to do
like
that on any sports show, whether
No.
it's TV or radio.
Jackson, the only person smarter than Mike is you. So I'm going to stick with you, Jackson, somehow. But God, that's a good point. And I'm going to tell you what, Derrick Henry's got the heart. You know, in all the interviews, all he wanted to talk about was the next game. Nope. All we want to talk about is the next game. I don't care what it is this game. We're going to win it all. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Man, it's going to be a good game.
This
Goodness.
is the game that why the Ravens got Henry.
Yeah, you're right.
It's for
You're
this
right.
game.
Yep, you're right. That's a good point.
yeah, and they're definitely going to look to establish him early in that game, like you said.
Yeah.
Cold weather conditions, Buffalo. The crowd's going to be obviously really into it.
Yeah. Crab cake sandwiches for everyone after the game.
There you go. There you go. The
Versus
fans.
Buffalo wings, which are
Ooh,
spicy.
Wait.
You're making me hungry.
Where's the game? Is it in Buffalo?
It's in Buffalo.
Yeah.
6:30 at night.
The fans are going to be jumping on tables all throughout the day.
Is this when the cold front's coming through as well
Yep.
this weekend?
Yep.
Now,
Yeah,
Baltimore's not warm, but
I
They're
mean,
not used to all that
I looked it up. I
snow.
think it said it was going to be 20 degrees at game time. I don't know
That's
Holy
about,
that's
smokes.
that's balmy.
yeah.
They'll be
So
Wow.
playing in shorts.
we'll see if that changes the next
That's
couple
balmy.
days, or
Goodness.
if, or if maybe like I don't know about the snow conditions or anything like that. I guess we'll have to keep an eye on things, but,
Yeah.
um, yeah, no, I mean, I think if they're able to ground and pound with Derrick Henry, that would favor Baltimore for sure. So, but I mean, I think it's a coin flip, honestly. And like we said, it's probably the pick of the bunch in terms of the NFL matchups this weekend. So
I don't want to hurt Mike's feelings, but is this the Super Bowl?
No.
No. Okay. Okay. Just checking. Okay.
I think you gotta beat the Chiefs before you make any
Yeah.
claims
Good
like that,
point.
right?
It's a good point.
You gotta come for the king, right? You gotta come for the crown.
What an easy road they had. Goodness gracious. Oh, jeez.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. So they got the Chiefs have the one seed as well, as a reminder. So the winner of the Bills Ravens is going to be on the road no matter what. Come next week, if well, that is considering if the Chiefs actually win, which we all think they will. So yeah, so certainly those home field advantages. And now with the current playoff format, where only the number one seed gets the first round bye, and then they obviously have the benefit of playing all their games at home if they advance. So we'll see if that ends up playing a big factor as well, which I expect it will, um, in the matchups forthcoming. So
All
we
right,
got
Blake,
some.
turn to the college football national championship. It's less
That's
than a
right.
few days away. We were supposed to be in Atlanta for the Good Guy Sports show on the road series, but it's not going to happen this time. But next time we'll be somewhere from a special location other than national championship side. But
Why do you have
there,
tickets?
so
Okay, sorry.
yeah, no, go ahead. We were just
No,
going to
yeah,
talk
yeah.
about this.
Yes,
So
yes. The big game, Jackson. You are 100% correct. From Atlanta. In case anybody is not aware, the Ohio State Buckeyes will be taking on the Fighting Irish from Notre Dame
The
on
eighth seed against the seventh seed.
Crazy.
eight,
Crazy.
8 versus 7, huh?
Yeah.
I think that's probably
eight.
more so to do
Who
with,
would have predicted that?
yeah, honestly, that's more so to do with the way that the committee decided to do the rankings. Ohio State and Notre Dame were not the eighth and the seventh best
Hey,
ranked teams in the country,
Well, they
but
were the fifth and sixth ranked
exactly, yeah,
teams.
yeah. So
fun fact, they each knocked off 1 and 2 as well. It's another fun fact about them
Yeah.
being the natty.
correct, yeah. So people that had the Oregon versus Georgia matchup were throwing out their
And
betting slips.
they each knocked off an SEC team.
Wow.
That's right.
Wow.
That's
Notre
right.
Dame beat Georgia. Ohio State beat Texas.
Yeah, who saw that coming? I don't think anybody did or predicted it except for maybe me, because you think about it, Ohio State, they know something tells me this offense has been clicking, and this Ryan Day team just somehow found ways to win other than their losses to Oregon and Michigan this season. But besides that, they know they this team has been riding the ship and really just showing up and just believing on this locker room and this group of guys that Ryan Day has for this football team. And on the flip side, Ryan Leonard and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, they have been the most memorable college football season so far this year. Given the fact that they're only lost to Northern Illinois at home at South Bend. But besides that, they have been clicking on all cylinders. This team has find ways to win for both teams rather, where you had Notre Dame come up with one loss versus Ohio State coming up with two losses. So really, if if Notre Dame has a chance to win this game, then they're just going to have to stay healthy and try to extend more plays and just try to take one game at a time and just you're going to have to be smart with football because and take care of the football because if you don't and if you don't make big plays on like third down and don't really convert them, then the Irish are going to have a long. Then I'm sorry to say this, Blake, but Peter Brown's not going to like this, but the Notre Dame Irish is going to have a long night to try to contain the Ohio State pass rush defense because you look at them on film. the Ohio State Buckeyes, Will Howard has playing at a whole nother level.
Hey,
Let's
what does Mike always say? It's when you get hot. It's not your
say
record. When do you
the
get
Buckeyes
hot?
are doing it at the right place and
You
right
got that
time.
right.
And,
That's
and
right.
because of that, I think Notre Dame will make it a very close game. But I am
Uh-oh.
taking the Ohio State Buckeyes to win the national championship. And all my Buckeye friends back at home who are watching on our Good Guy Sports Show will make me proud because the Buckeyes will win another national championship. It'll be their seventh overall. They won before back in the inaugural 2014 playoff when it was founded in 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 the first year when they first won it. It will mark and it will mark 10 years in the making since Ohio State won a national championship. They're going to do it again, and they are going to be marking it as their second college football national title in the college football playoff era, seventh overall. Ohio State will get it done again. They've been here before. They were in the title game last time. They're going to do it again. And Ohio State, the Buckeyes, will crown and win the national championship.
Wow.
Final
Wow.
score 34 to 20.
Yeah.
Book it.
All right. Wow. Big prediction there. Big prediction. Obviously, Ohio State is a pretty heavy favorite here. Blake, do you disagree with anything Jackson said there? Or?
No, no. As much as I love PJ, as much as I love Notre Dame, as much as I want Notre Dame to win, they say in DC, you got to feed the hand that's hot. And man, Ohio State is hot. And to be fair, the best thing that happened to Bryce Young was to get benched. The best thing that happened to Ohio State this year was to lose to Michigan. I don't think they've forgotten that yet. They probably play that every day before they play. And Ryan Day, I know he's going to the national championship. He has nothing left to prove in my eyes. I think he's so angry at the fans that wanted him to resign and called for them to fire him because he couldn't win that big game. But see, that's the problem. That wasn't the big game. The big game is happening on Monday. Ohio State wins.
Rather and another and another thing that added that represented the other opposite word besides number added that for those fans for the Ohio State University school besides Michigan, the school up north is what those people up in Ohio and the state and the university call it because they can't say that word. They say school up north. That's just how people are up in Columbus.
Mike, what are your initial thoughts on this game here? Are we any
Ohio State.
Okay. I
No,
was going to ask if we are going to get a classic Uncle Mike's
no,
zag here, but
no. I can't do it. I mean, Ohio State has won all three games by double digits. If last weekend, if Penn State hadn't thrown an interception with 33 seconds left, Notre Dame may or may not have won that game. And we may be Nittany Lions versus Ohio State. Notre Dame, I think, is going to have to pass this weekend or Monday night, rather. And they're a rushing offense. They don't pass a whole lot. And they're going to be passing against Ohio State's defensive backs. I like the odds on Ohio State for that. And Riley threw 2 interceptions last weekend against Penn State. So, I would take house money on Ohio State to win this game.
so we got three on the Buckeyes. Oh, man, I was split coming into this show about who I was favoring, but you know what? I've got a couple, you know what I'm
Go
gonna
for
say?
it.
Not so fast.
Not so
Not
fast.
so fast. And
No
I think
guts, no guts, no glory.
one name we haven't said yet in our analysis here is I think the head coach of Notre Dame football, Marcus Freeman, has done a really good job with this team. And I think it might have gone under the radar, given maybe their schedule. They had a like we mentioned earlier, they had a bad loss early in the year, and their schedule might not have been as tough as previous Notre Dame seasons. But I think this team is slowly and but surely played their way into a national championship caliber team. And I think Marcus Freeman deserves a lot of credit for that. And obviously they've got they brought in some big name players, Riley Leonard, a couple other grad transfers, a couple of portal players as well, in addition to the foundation they already had there. But there's just something about that one-off game where Notre Dame is playing with house money. Not many people would have thought they would get to this point, beating the likes of Georgia and Penn State. In my opinion, if they can put up a good performance against the likes of Georgia and Penn State, why can't they do that against Ohio State, you know? So maybe I'm being a contrarian. It didn't work for me in the Cotton Bowl Classic where I picked Texas to win, and I think you guys all were riding the Buckeyes in that one. But dang it, you know what? I'm going to do it again, and I'm going with the Irish, Jack. Am I
Oh,
crazy? Am I crazy?
you are crazy. You're
I
out of
know.
your mind. They're not even favored. They're like
I know.
You better eat your Lucky Charms.
I'm gonna be finding all the four-leaf clovers I can this weekend before the matchup. So I think it's gonna be it's a fun matchup though, and I think no
this.
matter what, it's gonna be a good game, right, Jack?
That's right, Blake. And one other thing to add about Marcus Freeman, he actually used to be on the Ohio State coaching staff as a player and a coach.
There you
So
go, extra motivation.
both of these programs do have a connection.
Very nice, very nice. Well, we certainly got some great football games to look forward to this weekend across the NFL and the college football landscape, being the last college game of the year and the finale of this new college football playoff format. So it'll be interesting to kind of look back at the 12-team playoff at the conclusion of this season and kind of assess what we liked, what we didn't like, and possibly any changes that we'd like to see with the format going forward. But I think ultimately it's been some pretty entertaining games so far. It has to be said.
Yeah, so before we go, Mike, I do want you to share real quick about the game of baseball has lost one of the legends who is a class act. Beloved Brewer broadcaster Bob Unger, Mr. Baseball, dies at 90, who has lived a great life and a great broadcaster who was what beloved in the game of baseball. Beloved Brewers broadcaster who was a living legend and by far known as Bob Unger, and Christian Yelich, one of the great Brewers legends that the game of baseball has ever seen, Mike.
Yeah.
What a life he has lived and legend he has he has lived for the career of his tenure, Mike. What a class act player.
Yeah, our deepest sympathies go to Bob Euchre's family and his many friends and colleagues. What an outstanding individual, great humorist. Has always made fun of himself in his playing days. And this statue is on the back wall of the Brewers home stadium. It's an homage to his Miller Lite commercial where he thought, oh, I guess it must be in the front row, and they put him in the way back of the stadium. So the Brewers put a statue in the in the way center field part of the park in the back wall.
Pretty cool.
So anyway, may you rest in peace.
Well said, Mike. Well said. All right. Well, I think that takes us to the end of our show today. I just want to thank Jackson, Mike, and Blake for joining myself. And I think, like we said earlier, we've got a really great sports weekend to look forward to. So expect a show next weekend to recap some of the big matchups that we previewed on this week's, and as well looking forward to some more NFL playoff matchups coming up soon. So thank you all for joining us on Good Guy Sports, and we will see you next week.
And a
Sounds good, guys.
And a program note, Uncle Mike will not be here next week. So keep that in mind.
Awesome.
Be playing with the powder.
Absolutely. He's going to have
All
a
right.
nice, well-deserved time off.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks,
You guys.
everyone. Bye.